All right, now this is a topic that has been debated upon a lot in the last few months, and this is, of course, got to do with moonlighting. After firing a few hundred employees just a week ago for moonlighting, the Indian IT major Infosys, in a bit of a surprising move, has said that it will now allow employees to moonlight. Now, according to some reports, Infosys has okayed external gig work for its employees only if their managers know about it. Now, reports say that India's second largest IT services company, Infosys, in an internal communication to its employees, is listed as to how staff can take up gig work. Now, most of the Indian IT firms so far have opposed moonlighting, which equals to taking up another job in the evening while one is already full-time employed. An email by Infosys now says that any employee who wishes to take up gig work may actually do so with prior consent of their manager. However, an internal mail has said that employees should not compete with Infosys or with Infosys clients. Now, 1 month back in September, the IT giant Wipro, remember, had fired nearly about 300 employees for moonlighting. And it had said that employees were working with one of its competitors, and this was the reason as to why they were sacked. All right, and also to give us more insights in terms of what this new rule by Infosys actually would mean for people who do moonlight, we're being joined in by our business editor, Sumit Chaturvedi, who's joining us live on this broadcast. Now, good evening to you, Sumit. This is a bit of an interesting, if one could so put it, U-turn by Infosys. Just last week it had said that it does not expect its employees to moonlight. But now it is said that people, that is the employees of Infosys, can take up another job provided their manager knows about it. What has changed?
So clearly there are a lot of things, a lot of reasons behind this. A high attrition rate in IT companies is one of the reasons. Every IT company wants to keep employees happy and satisfactory. So this moonlighting in a way became a trend during COVID times when most of the employees in IT sector were at home. They were working from home. That time they were engaged by many companies because there was a huge demand for IT services. So from there it started, and now some companies were objecting against. They were saying that they will not allow employees to go for this, but now it's climbing down of sorts for Infosys. One of the main reasons is clearly high attrition rate, and that's why Infosys says it will allow employees to follow these jobs, but with conditions.
Absolutely, indeed. Now, moonlighting is a bit of a grey area, isn't it, Sumit? A lot of people would, of course, moonlight. The employer never, of course, gets any whiff of this. And it's something that's been ongoing for a very long time, and people moonlight for a lot of different reasons. Do you think that this new announcement by Infosys is likely to now set a trend where companies will now come forth and will be more open about their employees taking up another gig job once they're done with their day job?
Well, absolutely, Saleh. Infosys is a trendsetter. It's one of the top IT companies in India. It's always been the forefront of the things which are right in the IT sector. That is why when Infosys is doing it, clearly we don't see TCS or Tech Mahindra staying away from this for long, because employees, if they want it, and clearly Infosys is introducing an employee-friendly policy, others will have to toe the line sooner rather than later. So we expect TCS, Tech Mahindra, other big IT companies, in fact small IT companies, also letting their employees work for others as long as their conditions are fulfilled.
Absolutely, indeed, Sumit. This of course, is a story that everyone around the world will be watching very, very closely. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and getting us all those updates. But moonlighting is a bit of a grey area. The employers earlier thought that they can restrict their employees from taking up another job once they're done with their day job. They said that this is something that they don't expect their employees to do because it affects their productivity. It also, they said, is not fair on the employer. But then again, the employees turned around and said that, listen, there is a contract that is signed at the time of taking up a particular job. A certain sum of money is paid for a certain job that is done, and that is about it. That is what employment is, and there is no reason as to why the company should somehow behave as if employees are either wedded or bonded to the employer, which is, of course, the entire debate on moonlighting. Infosys has perhaps set in a new trend, and it now remains to be seen as to how many others, of course, follow this trend. And also Rituparna Chakraborty is joining us on this broadcast to discuss about the issue of moonlighting. Now, Ms. Chakraborty, this is an important sort of a debate that is going to go on for quite some time, but Infosys has interestingly said that they are okay with their employees taking up a second gig job after their day job, provided their managers are aware of it. What's your take on this?
I think, from whatever little I have gathered about this much debated conversation, I think it's always been about transparency. It's about having an open conversation and consensus on both sides. If one chooses to, especially if employees chooses to take additional gigs or want to do something over the weekend or in their after hours. So I think it's always been a debate about what's the obligation, what's the agreement. So I guess what Infosys is doing is actually good and augurs well, because and the important fact is that they're actually highlighting and emphasizing that there needs to be an agreement, that there needs to be, and I think it's not just about managers' approval. I think it's a little more formal than that. So there has to be a formal acceptance on both sides.
Ms. Chakraborty, yes, I want to just interrupt you there, because an employment is always conditional. There is a clear agreement that states that this is what is expected of an employee. This is the emoluments that an employee gets for doing a certain job that is pre-agreed upon. Now, moonlighting is where people take up jobs in their free time, in their evenings, which does not in any way interfere with their regular day job. So why do you think an employer should even have a concern with that? Because this, at the end of the day, is not a marriage, nor is it bonded labor. An employee just does the work that he or she is professionally paid to do.
No, I think that is probably, again, it's up for debate. What you do after work, it's all about what's the employment contract that you've signed. The employment contracts, as per the Indian laws, and the ones that we see typically being signed, employers are very categorical that you cannot do any alternate jobs, and it is a full-time employment. Now, just like all the benefits a regular employer enjoys, in that there is no 9 to 5. I mean, your health insurance, your parental coverage, everything is beyond your working hours. So I think that's that is a very important consideration. And then there are consideration of confidentiality. Right. Not all job roles, but certain job roles have confidentiality, which organization can risk. I think what organizations are saying is that let's honor the agreement, and if there is a change required because you want to do moonlighting, let's come to the table together and discuss and negotiate. Some might agree, some might not agree. In this case, Infosys has chosen that, yes, this is a policy. We are okay to have that discussion. It might so happen, to be honest, some roles in Infosys managers may not even agree. So,
all right. Very interesting, because this is a debate that's not going to end, Ms. Chakraborty, because I'm pretty sure a lot of arguments will, of course, be put back and forth, but we are completely out of time. Thank you very much indeed for joining us and giving us your perspective there. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.